This is Wayne Warner, and the date is March 13th, 2012, and I have an interview here today with Robert Warren Brown, a pilot on a B-24 during World War II, and later he served 30 years as a state patrolman, sergeant in the state patrol, and you were also a reservist with the Air
Yes,
Force
yes,
after you returned from World War II.
yes, I was.
Bob, let's go right back to the early days where you were born and something about your parents and schooling before you went into the Army Air Corps, they used to call it back in those
Right,
days. Yeah.
yes.
Tell us something about that.
Oh well, I was born in Springfield, and my father had a business there. Uh, I was born in 1918, February 1918,
What day in February?
23rd,
23rd of February, 1918.
1918.
World War One was still going on then.
I think it was.
Yeah, it ended in
Yeah, yeah.
uh, fall.
And uh, well, I lived on my dad had a farm for a while, and he worked in town. He had a drugstore in town, and but later on, we went through some hard times in the early 20s and mid 20s, and my sister died too. And we moved into town anyway. We owned a little place on Kearney, and we moved into that from the farm. And in 1927, after the stock market broke, why my father couldn't get a job, and we went to Kansas City. There was 5 of us kids, and we went to Kansas City, and things weren't good up there, but we managed to survive, and I graduated from Westport Senior High School in 1935.
What did your father do in Kansas City?
He finally got a job delivering milk with a horse and buggy.
Of course, those were glass bottles back in those
Yes, that's
days.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I went with him on some of it. We were able to live with that,
Uh-huh.
and in 35. Oh, my last 2 years of high school, uh, my next door neighbor was with the not the postal, but the other the other telegraph.
Oh,
Yeah,
telegraph office?
yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And he got me a job uh, in in Kansas City, riding a bicycle and delivering telegrams over on Broadway and between 31st and 39th or something like that.
How would they pay you?
They paid me $5 a week.
And you had to ride that bicycle
Yeah.
quite a while,
Well, yes, and
several miles then every week.
oh yeah. Well, we rode all over. We rode to the Kansas line, and we rode back to about Gillum Road or something like that. So we had a lot of business north of us, and I Kansas City Life was right there close to us,
Mm-hmm.
their big building, and then north of that, why, uh, there were several other uh, federal offices that we delivered telegrams to,
Mm-hmm.
and all around there. Anyway, we stayed there. My mother came back about 40, about 30, about 34. She came back and lived in our little house there on Kearney, and about 36, I think my father came back. I lived with him until he came back, and when he came back, I lived with my aunt at Raytown.
Hmm.
Yeah, my uncle had a dairy out there near Raytown, and I lived with them until I think it was about 37, and then I got transferred from the telegraph there to the one in Springfield. So
Now you lived on Kearney. Is that where Highway 66 went through at that time, or was it?
I think it did. Yeah, yeah. Trying to the little stores. There was a little four room house, and there was a little store in front of it, and it's right there by Robertson School. If you're familiar with that area, yeah.
Oh yes, I am.
Yeah.
December 7th, 1941. What were you doing? The day the Japanese struck Pearl Harbor.
I was in the service.
Oh, you were already in.
Oh yeah, I went in the service. 19 September the 28th of 1940.
So you joined the Army Air Corps.
Yes,
Did you want to fly at that time?
I wanted to.
Had you flown before?
No, not really. I couldn't afford it. It was it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And my folks didn't have any. My folks had money, but it was all gone then because we'd been living off of it. But anyway, I thought I'd go in. I went and talked to them about being a pilot, and but I didn't have enough education for it. At that time, you had to have 2 years of college, I think, and but they tested me and everything, and they said if I went in, I could go to radio school, and maybe later on, I might be able to get into the pilot training. And I did. I was in the first Army Air Force in St. Louis. I have a little trouble with some. What's the big base in St. Louis? Jefferson Barracks.
Oh, Jefferson Barracks.
Yeah, it had been a cavalry, and they put our Air Force in there, and I was some of the first ones that went in.
Now, before you joined, the war, of course, was going on in Europe and in China.
Right.
Was there talk that by 1940 that we would soon be in, or did you hear things like that?
No, I can't really say. I'm sure I heard it, and we were in the other one,
Right.
Took a while to get in, but we are in the other one, and Roosevelt knew that we were going to be in it eventually. I think he did. Anyway, he tried to build up the Air Force and get some things so we'd be ready for something like that. And I had read things about that, and things were moving a little bit from the Depression area. Yeah.
Yeah. So things were more jobs were available by 1940.
Yeah, there was more. Not a whole lot, but a few more.
Do you remember the day you left Springfield for the Army Air Corps? Do you remember that day? Did you ride the train out of here to?
For the now for the pilot training or just Army Air Corps?
Army Air Corps.
I went into the Army from Benton Harbor, Michigan. Yeah, Benton Harbor, Michigan. That's where I was when I decided that I would try to get in. And I did get in there, and then I went to Detroit.
Were you working there in Benton Harbor?
Yes. I worked, yes, I was. My mother had sent me up there because she had a friend that made soft metal parts, like this, and awful cars, and he had a big outfit, and I went up there and he gave me a job, and I worked there from about June, I think, until September. September the 28th when I went in the service. And I guess I got homesick too. But anyway, I went in September the 28th there and talked to the Air Force boys, and they told me I could go to radio school if I passed my test, and I went in there. And that was September the 28th, and probably, I don't remember exactly, but about 3 or 4 days later, why, I was in Jefferson Barracks.
Did you have your uniforms by that time? You have all your equipment?
I never got anything till I got to Jefferson Barracks, yeah.
Okay. Did you go in with anybody that you knew, or is this,
No, not at that time. I
you
went in
didn't?
by myself.
What was the first? You took some basic training, and was that at Jefferson Barracks?
Yes,
Okay. Did you have to march, or?
yes, we marched and everything. We were there, or I was there. See, I was going to go to radio school, which is Scott Field over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were waiting. I think most of us were waiting to go over there. And uh, yes, we marched almost every day, or at least 5 days a week. And I did. I pulled KP. I got $21 a month pay, and but we got good food. I even helped the cooks a little bit, and I did a little bit of everything. And then it was sometime after, right after the first of the year, that I went to Jefferson Barracks. And our schools then were in the big dirigible hangar. They'd
Oh.
made a school out of that.
And then when did you go into the radio school? And what did you?
That was the radio
Oh,
school.
that was radio
In
school
in the hangar was the radio school
at Scott Field.
at Scott Field
Now that's in Illinois.
in Illinois, right
Yeah.
across the,
Mhm.
20 or 30 miles from St. Louis.
So what were they training you to do in radio school? So
Copy code, and uh, all about radios.
the technical aspect. Of it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I graduated from there in about 7 months. And then I got a little raise. They started us out with not sergeant's stripes, but with the other type of money that you got. From just knowing so much.
Okay, so they were paying you a sergeant's wage then, huh?
No, they. When I graduated, I was still making my $21 a month, but then I became a first class something.
Oh.
Yeah. And I got a little more money. They kept my whole class for instructors.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we kept getting these class ratings, until we were getting pretty good money, and then they decided we should be officers, and we started out with a PFC, and then a corporal, and then a sergeant, and by the time, before too long, I was a staff sergeant, and I got $96 a month as a staff sergeant. We made a new school, two new schools at Scott Field. They built buildings and made two new schools. Then they started another school at Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I didn't go to that. I could have gone to it. And then they started another school after that at Wisconsin, where the university of Wisconsin is. And I didn't go to that. I stayed there. And then they took over the big hotels in Chicago. And I went there.
This is still radio school.
Still radio schools, yeah.
We're going to get you in that pilot seat pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah, radio school. And in I'm still trying to get in the pilot school, you know. And about December of 42, they had a big drive in Chicago for crew members to go to pilot school and navigator, you know. And I got in on that, and I passed. And they put me, when we got ready to go, they put me in charge of a whole train load of new recruits, you know. Yeah, because I was a staff sergeant, and the rest of them were all just civilians, you know.
Let's go back to that infamous day, December 7th, 1941.
Right.
Were you in Chicago then?
I was in Chicago then, right.
How did you hear about the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
I think I heard it over the radio, yeah. Yeah.
What was the attitude? Were these guys ready to go and fight, or what was the general attitude?
Well, I think so. I think we were all in there to do what we had to do.
And there were a lot of young men who dropped out of school and joined after that happened.
There were, yeah. And yeah, I'm sure that the fellows that I knew that were in there, they, like I say, there's still a lot of jobs back then, and rather than maybe some of them went in, by gosh, but to get a little money, you know, and a place to live.
Okay, so now you've got about 2 years in radio, 41 and 42.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And in December of 42, you passed your test for pilots?
In December 42, I was in Chicago, and yes, I did go up for tests. Yes, it wasn't real accurate, but it was enough that they could send men to San Antonio.
Okay.
Okay, and I think about 3 or 4 railroad cars is what we went, and we had sleepers and everything, you know. And like I say, I don't know how many men were on our car, but probably 50 men anyway, something like that. Anyway, and we went to San Antonio. And when we got to San Antonio, then they started really testing us.
Now I've got down January 1942. Is that when you arrived in San Antonio?
January, yes, I
Okay.
think that's about right, yeah.
About a month after Pearl Harbor then. You went from Chicago to San Antonio.
Yeah, I guess.
You told me you graduated in 1943. You became a second lieutenant, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the first thing you learned in San Antonio? What did they put you through?
They tested us in every way. I mean, every way for a week. We had spinning dials, and we had to keep the point on the dot. You know, testing your relay, and of course we started with our physical too. We ran 2 miles about 2 or 3 times a week, you know, and we every day we went out and did exercises, but they give us every kind of a psychological test that they could give you, and I think they did a good job. Now there were a few people that didn't make it, that didn't make anything. And if you didn't make a navigator or bombardier or pilot, then you went into as a private in the Air Force, you know.
Hmm.
And
So they were ground crew people.
well, they got them off, and they could go wherever they wanted to after that. But the main thing they were after is how many pilots are we going to get, how many navigators, and how many bombardiers. And I made pilot. And a friend of mine, he made a bombardier, you know. I mean, he's from Springfield, too. In fact, he's still alive. And
What is his name?
Don Sutter,
He lives here in town?
he's at, he's in a rest home.
Oh,
Yeah, I think he's at Mercy Villa.
okay.
Uh-huh. Or he
What-
was, I know. He if he has any problem, he goes to St. John's, you know. Uh-huh.
So you're on your way to be a pilot.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what comes next?
Okay, we had about nine weeks there, I think it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And they, and like I say, I think they did a good job in testing us.
So they sorted out the people according to how they felt this person would fit
Right,
in,
right.
trying to make a good
Yeah.
fit.
And it seemed like the bombardiers were oh, the loosest. and the and the navigators were just the opposite. Everything they did was precise and right, you know. And the pilots were kind of in between there, so a little bit of crap and a little bit of something else, you know. And anyway, I was there, and then I went to Pine Bluff for that started the airplane training, you know. With primary training, I went to Pine Bluff. And
That's in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Not too far from home now.
No, no.
Did you get any time off to come home to
Oh,
Springfield?
no. My wife, my girlfriend from Chicago came down while I was still in San Antonio, and we got married there. They let us get married and everything, and she was a telephone operator in Chicago, and when we went, she went to work in down there at the telephone office. And then when we went to Pine Bluff, she went there and she got a room with a nice old lady that, and she went to work for the telephone company there. And I get to see her maybe on Saturday or Sunday or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't anything much, but I flew a lot. Then I passed that.
What were you flying?
PT-19.
Tell us what a PT-19 is.
It's a single wing with about 175 horse motor. It's a 6-cylinder inverted motor. That's about what it is, and a low wing monoplane. Fixed gear on it and everything.
Uh-huh. Just one engine then.
One engine, that's all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is your basic, you know.
So you learned in that plane?
I started in that ride.
How was it?
And it was fun. Yeah, I flew with my teacher, and Hunt was his name. About 7 hours, I think. And then one day he just got out of the plane and he says, "All right, you go ahead. You remember everything that I've taught you. I want to see you do it." And I did, and I soloed then.
That was your solo in a
That was my solo, yeah.
PT-19.
Yeah, PT, yeah. What did I say? PT-19? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah,
I think you told me
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
So
And
you graduated to another plane then?
they shipped us in it was still 1943, and we went up through Branson, and that was all flooded. And in fact, we followed the White River there for quite a ways, and I think we went through Aurora, and we went on up like Joplin, but we couldn't get into Coffeyville, Kansas because of water. So we had to go up to Fort Scott and then come down.
Hmm.
But then
You were on the train?
I was on it. I was on a regular troop train. Yeah.
One of the guys told me about when they'd stop at a depot, there would be people out there, and they would give cookies and other things. Did you ever experience that?
Mm-mm.
They didn't.
No, we stopped one place along the White River little store there, and we tried to buy things, but we didn't have coupons. We were hungry. They gave us box lunches until we got so far. We weren't hurting or anything, but we would have liked to have got something to chew on, but we couldn't do it because, to my knowledge, we didn't spend much time anywhere.
Uh-huh.
They'd stop and whatever they had to do with the train, they did that, but otherwise we kept going.
What did they have at Coffeyville?
They had BT-13s. That was our basic training. This had a 450 horse engine in it, pretty good size engine. Had a 2-speed prop on it. You could have a low and a high gear on that, fixed gear. But it was a heavy plane, and we spun them and everything, and we lost a man or two on them. They were pretty tricky.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was one that you really had to know something about it. But
It was just a trainer?
well, yeah. This is all training. I'm not anything but I'm still a student.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a trainer. You go through 3 of them.
Okay, Coffeyville. Did you get any time off so you could come back to Springfield ever?
No.
What about your wife? You left her in Pine Bluff.
No, she came up there with
Okay.
me, yeah, and she got a little bit. I got $75 a month. I took a cut and paid to be a cadet. But anyway, yeah, she came up and she got a nice room, and people were nice to her. And she got enough work that she could make it.
Uh-huh.
And I could give her a little bit because I didn't need everything was taken care of, and so I could give her a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have a car or anything like that. And we I got through that. Now that in primary we lost a third of our people, flunked out of flying.
Out of Coffeyville?
No, the primary at Pine Bluff.
Oh, Pine Bluff. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we lost a third. At Coffeyville, I think we lost about a fourth of what we had left. And then we went from there to
You went to Oklahoma somewhere.
yeah, I went to yeah. I'm trying to
Was
think.
it Altus?
Altus. We went to Altus, and that was for our third phase of training. Yeah,
Okay.
and twin engine. We went into twin engines there. They weren't big engines. They were about 225 for each one.
Mm-hmm.
But we got all of the instruction that you get from 2 engines when you lose one, what you do, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, was this an Army plane like a B-25 or a B-26 or?
Well, those are bombers.
So you were,
These are trainers. I'm still talking about trainers.
oh, okay.
AT-6 was a trainer.
AT-6.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Is that had 600 horse engine in it and a retractable landing gear. And they had some trainers, and I was hoping we'd get into some of the hot ones, you know, but we never got into it.
Now, that trainer, was the instructor sitting behind you? Is that,
He was until he got out, yeah. When he got out, I flew myself then. Yeah.
twin
yeah.
engine? Okay.
Yeah,
So you're going up the scale here.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah. And how long were you at Altus?
About the same. Each one of them was 9 weeks, I think, or something like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah.
Now you,
And in October of '43, I graduated there, and I graduated out of being a student. I became a pilot then, and I became a second lieutenant, and I got paid $300 a month.
so you got your wings and second lieutenant bars.
Right.
Now what's going to happen to you?
Okay, then of course we picked they gave us a chance to pick what planes we wanted to go into, and of course everybody wanted to go into the small jobs, you know. In fact, I put in for B-26s, but I knew I wouldn't get it. And anyway, they sent us to Salt Lake City. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we were allowed to go home first. I think we had about 2 weeks. And we went to Springfield and visited and stayed with my folks, you know. And then we went on to Chicago and stayed with Florence's folks, my wife's folks. And then we caught that Denver Zephyr, you know, and we went to Salt Lake City. And if you were a day late there, why, it cost you $100. So we got there on time. And after we got there, they reassigned us, and they sent me anyway, and they sent me to Boise, Idaho. And that's where I went into B-24s.
So you didn't know until Boise that you would be in B-24s?
No, I
But
didn't.
you were trained though to go to say a B-17 or
Yeah. Well, it was anything. I was trained in multi-engine, and they could anything that I went into. Why, they would have to train me a little bit on that plane before they
yeah.
gave it to me entirely. You know.
Now you've got a book there.
This is where I got shot down.
Okay, if we can show this on the camera, can we show that? What happened to our camera?
I don't know. I don't know when it went out.
Oh boy.
Huh.